Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, December 3. Celtic face fresh UEFA fines for fan misconduct. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Celtic are facing a hefty fine of over £20,000 from UEFA following incidents during the recent Champions League victory over RB Leipzig. The financial penalty from Europe's governing body stems from two specific charges: the blocking of public passageways and a pitch invasion by fans. The total fine amounts to €27,000, which translates to approximately £22,500. This includes a €12,000 fine for obstruction of public pathways and an additional €15,000 for the pitch invasion of a young supporter. This latest penalty brings Celtic's total fines over the past two seasons to a staggering £200,000. In an official statement, UEFA outlined the reasons for the sanctions. Celtic FC incidents and sanctions, blocking of public passageways, Article 38, UEFA Safety and Security Regulations, fine €12,000. Invasion of field of play, Article 16, fine €15,000. This situation highlights ongoing concerns regarding fan behaviour and safety regulations within modern-day football stadiums. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, December 3. Celtic's European opponent suspend key player. Report by Mark Walker. Dynamo Zagreb have been plunged into further disarray ahead of next week's showdown with Celtic after they suspended key Moroccan international defender Sami Mei for a breach of discipline. The Hoops travel to Croatia in their latest Champions League game, but the hosts are struggling in the league after a defeat to bitter rivals Hajduk Split at the weekend, which has cast serious doubt on the future of manager Nenad Jelika. Now they have been rocked by an outburst from Mei. The 28-year-old former Ferencváros stopper hit the roof when he discovered he was not included in the starting lineup for Zagreb's game last week against Borussia Dortmund, which they ended up losing 3-0. He was axed from the weekend game also, and the manager has given no indication when the 10 times capped star, who only joined the club in the summer, will be back. He revealed, "There was a situation involving Sami that I didn't like. We will deal with it internally. Everyone at the club has been informed of what happened. There is no player on planet Earth who is more important than the club, especially at Dynamo. In a situation where we were struggling with injuries and fatigue anyway, there is no place for any player's ego. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, December 3. Everton shut down Nathan Patterson loan. Report by Stuart Wilson. With Rangers finding out the devastating news that right-back Narojo Casemiro could be sidelined for up to 6 months after rupturing ligaments in his knee while on international duty, the expectation is that they will look to bring in a reinforcement when the January transfer window opens. Nils Koppen and those behind the scenes at Ibrox will undoubtedly have their targets to complement captain James Tavernier and Dujon Sterling, but one which has been suggested by several Rangers supporters was a loan return for Nathan Patterson from Everton. The 23-year-old Patterson left Rangers for the English Premier League in January 2022. He has made 31 appearances during that period. However, it has taken until December for him to make a senior outing this time around, coming on as a second-half substitute with Everton, already 4-0 down at Manchester United. Injuries have plagued the defender, who missed Scotland's Euro 2024 campaign over the summer, but manager Sean Dyche was in no mood to talk about a transfer exit for the player when asked during a recent press conference. "Who's reporting?" he questioned. "Who? Tell me, who? Name them." "Oh, online. Okay. Must be right then." "Yes, we will decide what happens with the players here." Report by Stuart Wilson. Evening Times Sport, December 3. Greek side Aris seek new deal for Rangers player. Report by Mark Walker. Greek side Aris have opened negotiations with Rangers in an attempt to get them to lower their £4.2 million transfer fee for forgotten loan flop Jose Cifuentes. The Ecuadorian midfielder is on loan with Aris, and the club initially agreed on a deal where they had the option to sign Cifuentes at any time for the fee. Cifuentes has been a key player for the club and has made 13 appearances for them and helped Aris to 5th place in the Greek league. However, they now want to renegotiate the original deal because they feel the transfer fee is too high, and reports in Greece reveal they contacted Rangers last week to see if a new agreement could be reached. Cifuentes first exited Rangers in February on loan to Cruzeiro, but he managed to make just 3 starts in Brazil's Serie A and was bombed out of the first team. His time at Aris has been more successful, and manager Akis Mancios sees him as an important member of the team. Cifuentes made just 6 league starts for Rangers after arriving from Los Angeles Football Club in a £1.2 million deal, which he still has 2.5 years left on that contract. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, December 3. Nick Rogers says, "The Tiger tale goes on, but the end is surely nigh." You may have read elsewhere in this paper, "What? You don't turn straight to this back page as soon as you step out of the newsagents?" That the Oxford Word of the Year for 2024 is brain rot. According to these good folk at Oxford University Press, brain rot is defined as the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as a result of overconsumption of material considered to be trivial or unchallenging. To be honest, I don't know why they waited so long to thrust that word into the spotlight. I mean, brain rot has been appearing in the regular correspondence I've been having with my readers about this column for the past 14 bloomin' years. In fact, one crumpled communication sent through the post, or was it nailed to my front door, featured the simple scrawl, "Dear Mr. Roger, brain rot, yours in golf, W. Murchie, Pumferston." It's this kind of constructive, insightful, appreciative feedback that sustains my enthusiasm and keeps me going. But it can be hard going. If it's brain rot you want, then try following the protracted merger talks among the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the Saudi Public Investment Fund, the PIF, which provides the LIV Gulf War chest. There was a report last week claiming the DP World Tour and LIV were now having discussions with those involving the PGA Tour. I don't know about you, but all this tiresome stuff has left my cerebral matter decomposing to the point that if you stuck a microphone to my ear, all you would hear would be a hollow whistling sound. Presumably the whole subject will rear its head again today, when Tiger Woods plonks himself in front of the media in the Bahamas. With his mighty position of influence on global golfing affairs, will he deliver any intriguing, illuminating tidbits on the progress of these talks? That's probably wishful thinking, isn't it? Let's face it, everything is so hush-hush. You would get more information out of a monastic silence. A statement from the DP World Tour to the United States golf magazine, Global Golf Post, at the weekend, on the latest claims about the merger talks stated that we remain in discussions with the PGA Tour Enterprises, SSG and PIF relating to the ongoing overall picture for men's global golf, but no agreements have been reached. Another update with nothing to update then. Brain rot indeed. As well as the state of the men's game, most folk, or at least some folk, will be keen to hear about the general state of Tiger himself as he performs his duties as host of this week's Hero World Challenge. He's not playing, of course. Last week he made an official announcement about that. It was hardly a surprise. In September, he underwent microdepression surgery of the lumbar spine for nerve impingement in the lower back. Ah, that old favourite. Poor old Tiger continues to get so much work done to his crumbling, creaking frame. You half expect him to appear at his press conference today, shrouded in scaffolding. Woods has not played competitively since July's Open at Royal Troon, where he missed the cut with rounds of 79 and 77, departed sharply for his private jet after a brief summing up of affairs, and was probably back in Florida in time for tea. In 4 major outings during 2024, the only 4 events he competed in outside the Genesis Invitational, where he withdrew after 26 holes, Woods was a cumulative 44 over par. When he speaks today, the 48-year-old will no doubt deliver his usual bullish sermon about getting physically stronger, putting in more tournament reps, his determination to win again, and any other cut-out-and-keep Tiger bingo phrase that he's spouted over the last couple of years. The one thing we can guarantee he won't say is, "Sod this, folks, I'm retiring," despite him being stuck in this crushing cycle of physical setbacks and competitive mediocrity. Tiger can barely beat old man Par. He's no chance against old Father Time. Rightly or wrongly, Woods continues to postpone the inevitable. As we've all said, and my goodness, the column inches dedicated to Tiger's plight would make War and Peace look like Mr. Men books. Woods has more than earned the right to call it a day on his own terms. While many lament the sorry sight of a sporting giant hippling and huffling around the course, many others feel the legend has, in some ways, been enhanced by this defiant struggle to overcome the odds. That struggle goes on. Have a mull over this quote. Most people would quit and give up in my situation right now, but I'm not most people, and my mind works differently. I won't quit. I will keep fighting and working to produce the performances I know I'm capable of. These were not Wood's words. They could have been, though. They were in fact the unyielding declarations from Scotland's Andy Murray earlier in the year, in response to a suggestion that his ongoing toils on the tennis court were tarnishing his legacy. Murray, of course, would finally accept that it was over a few months later, and brought the curtain down on a shimmering career in August. The golf world awaits a similar twist in the Tiger tale, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, December 4. Hartson paints bleak picture for Celtic winger. Report by Joe Donnelly. Former Celtic striker John Hartson reckons the writing is on the wall for out-of-favour winger Louis Palma at Parkhead. The Honduran has been the subject of transfer rumours recently, with reports claiming the 24-year-old could be en route to the MLS as early as next month. Palma appears to have dropped out of manager Brendan Rodgers' matchday squad, adding further fuel to the fire with regards to talk of the player's departure. Speaking on Go Radio, Hartson said, "If Palma goes, they will certainly want to get another one in over on that left-hand side. It is looking like the writing is on the wall for Palma at Celtic. It's in the papers every other day that he is not happy, and his dad has been quoted saying this and that. I just feel that if they get the right type of offer in January, I think they might act on that. I don't think he's done enough. I think he has played in fits and starts. Sometimes he likes to play and does something really, really special, and you think, wow, he's back, and he is a good player. Take it on to the next game. He flatters to deceive a little bit. When he is one-on-one, he tends to cut inside and pass it into the midfield. You want to get a defender or the opposing player in a situation with someone like Palma to run at him and make something to happen. The amount of times he turns back, and then again in the following he might do something very good, and you think, he's got something. Meanwhile, Internacional chief says that they will work to make the signing of Celtic defender Alessandro Bernabe. The 24-year-old fullback is flourishing away from Parkhead and the Brazilian club are eager to sign him on a permanent basis. Bernabe is currently due back at Celtic in the new year, and it is believed the Parkhead side would demand around £8 million if Internacional wanted to follow through with a concrete offer. Celtic paid around £3.75 million to sign the Argentinian on a 5-year contract in July 2022, but he has only managed 28 first-team appearances, 16 of those starts, before seeking opportunities closer to his homeland. The international president, Alessandro Barcelos, said, "We wish to keep him, and our work will be for him to stay. We will work till the end to keep him. We know that the club has its financial limit, but I think it is possible. I am optimistic. We will make all the effort we can. We are talking, but we'll go deep on it after the tournament. Ending the season, we will dig into it to have a solution until the end of the year." Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, December 4. Celtic cannot be content as Rangers looks to transfer window. Report by Graham McGarry. The way the top of the Premiership is starting to shape up, the chasing pack behind Celtic look to be needing snookers already. The champions take on their closest challenger, Aberdeen, at Pittodrie this evening, with the advantage of a 4-point cushion and the luxury of a game in hand over the Dons. So it could be argued that even should Celtic take their foot off the gas in the northeast this evening, or have a collective off night, they could well afford it. Unsurprisingly though, their manager Brendan Rodgers is having none of that, imploring his men not to let up and to put their foot to the throat of their rivals. The Celtic manager is enjoying watching his team, and indeed his squad, flex their muscles on the domestic stage at present, but he is adamant there is still plenty of room for improvement. When asked if his men should be striving to become even better than they are showing themselves to be at present, Rodgers said, "Always yes. Because you always have to, I think, at every moment you can. I never say complacency, but contentment is something that you don't want to have. You don't want to be content. You don't want to be happy. You always have to be improving and developing, and that's something that we as a club want to be able to do. I think we've been able to, in the last couple of winters, really energise the squad and bring it to a level that allows us to work at how we're working at the moment. But like I say, we always have to look beyond that and look to the future. The near future offers Rodgers a chance to do just that, and to further bolster what is already a pretty formidable-looking squad in the January transfer window. And he said, "I think we'll definitely look. There are still areas that I would like to improve in the squad. Absolutely no question about that. We cannot do everything in the summer one. We've done a lot of great work in there, but there's definitely one or two areas just to go again. Give that freshness to the squad as well, and give that quality. So it is important that we keep building. Like I said, it's contentment. All the players will learn, develop, they'll get better. But you need to always provide competition, and that's something I'll always look at." Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, December 4. Hagi explains Rangers' mentor role. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Rangers' Yanis Hagi spent the early part of this season playing for the club's B team after being outcasted on return from a loan spell away from Ibrox. Manager Philippe Clement previously revealed that he did not see Hagi as part of his plans before a contractual issue was rectified and the midfielder rejoined the Rangers' first team in early October. He has now featured 4 times this season and made his first Scottish Premiership start of the campaign against St Johnstone last Sunday. The 26-year-old, who joined the Light Blues for £4 million in 2020, showed signs that he could be the answer to Rangers' number 10 conundrum and wants to use this latest opportunity as a chance to kick on again. It is good to be back playing again. It's just a nice feeling putting on the shirt, having competition again. I love every second of it, the Romanian playmaker confessed. I have been around at professional football for a while now, even though I'm 26. I think I'm in my 10th season right now as a professional. I know in football things can change quite quickly, from good to bad and from bad to good. So I am trying to control my environment, what I can do, and be prepared for what could happen. I'm just happy right now that I'm back and I'm enjoying my football. I'm enjoying every second of it. I made it clear when I saw my future within the club. There were conversations and we both wanted the same thing, and that resulted in me being here. On watching Rangers' early season struggles from the stands, he continued, "It's tough when you're not playing football. I've been in a worse situation than this one with my injury, being away for a year and not able to play. Now I am able to train and play with the B team, so shout out to them because they've been unbelievable with me for 2-3 months. Just everything I needed to be ready physically and mentally to perform. They were open to it. It's been great. I've tried to help as much as I could with my experience, talking to them every now and then. It was a different experience, obviously, but you want to play professional football, so that's why I'm here. So I'm just happy I'm back." Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, December 4. Motherwell striker to miss rest of season after training injury. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Motherwell striker Zach Robinson is said to miss the remainder of the 24-25 season after suffering a ruptured Achilles tendon in training. News that manager Stuart Kettlewell has dubbed a real blow. The 22-year-old sustained the injury while taking part in a walkthrough on Tuesday morning. Following the incident, Robinson consulted a specialist and is scheduled for Thursday surgery. The former AFC Wimbledon starlet, who joined the Fir Park club on a 2-year deal during the summer following 2 loan spells at Dundee, will face a lengthy recovery period, ruling him out for the rest of the campaign. Kettlewell said, "This is a real blow. We have been working to get players back to fitness, which has been going well, but to then be dealt this news, it's gutting. We now have 7 players unavailable, which is far from ideal. We were just going through team shape for Wednesday's game at a walking pace, and Zach went down as he went for the ball. With no signs beforehand of an upcoming injury, it's disappointing all round. Most importantly, the player needs to be looked after. We have a great medical team here, and all the players and staff will support him through this period." Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, December 5. Celtic starlet tracked by EPL clubs. Report by David Irvin. Celtic starlet Daniel Cummings has reportedly not yet been offered a new contract with Premier League clubs linked with a transfer swoop. The 18-year-old teenager has been in electric form for the Celtic B team this season and has trained under Brendan Rodgers. However, according to the Daily Mail, no contract has been offered to the youngster, who is out of contract in the summer. Cummings, who has 5 goals in 5 games in the UEFA Youth League, is out of contract in the summer, so is free to discuss a pre-contract move from January 1. It is claimed Celtic could bank between £230,000 and £330,000 in compensation if Cummings is to leave Celtic. Brentford, Wolves, Fulham, Ipswich, Sunderland and Burnley are credited with an interest in the teenager. Discussing Cummings, Rodgers previously said, "There's so much involved in a young player getting an opportunity to play. I would like to think that I've been a coach, that all my career I've put in young players. If you trace my career back as a manager, before my 15 years as youth development coach, I've played players at 16 years of age, 17, 18. It's not just about scoring goals or performing. It's your mentality. It's your professionalism. It's all these things alongside ability. That is what gets you the opportunity. So that's always something I will assess. I think in terms of Daniel's output, his goals in his games, he's done very well. But, like I say, there's lots of things that when I bring in a young player, I consider. Young players will always get a chance here, and there's always a number of factors why they can or cannot get a chance. But the first one's normally ability. If they're good enough, they'll get a chance. You will hear all these things about Celtic and the pathway. There's not a pathway here, so they won't get a chance. If you're good enough, you'll get a chance. Good enough in terms of your game, and good enough in your attitude. If you do that, and you have a little bit of patience, you can become a Celtic player like Callum McGregor, like Kieran Tierney, like Tony Ralston, like Stephen Welsh, like Dane Murray, who's played some games. You'll get a chance, but you've got to have the right traits in order to be a Celtic player. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, December 5. Clement on reality of Rangers team selection. Philippe Clement pointed to selection struggles as he responded to a question on the attacking nature of his side against Kilmarnock. Rangers ran rampant against the Ayrshire side with a flurry of goals in the second half to earn a 6-0 victory in the Scottish Premiership. Danilo started up front with Hamza Igaman also involved from the start, alongside Yanis Hagi and Václav Černý. Clement discussed his team selection post-match, as he insisted the only reason it has taken time to adopt a more attacking system is down to player availability. Responding to a question on the starting 11, setting the tone, and Rangers on the front foot, Clement said, "Yes, but how many times in this 1 year did I have 2 strikers available in the squad? That's the reality of the story. So it's major. It's important to keep everybody fit, and you say now the right choices. But I'm sure if we didn't win 6-0, that maybe you have said, why is Conor Barron not starting today? It's like that. But all these players are pushing, they're working hard. I cannot say anything about that. We need to keep it that way, and then they will all have their moments to shine. They will all have their moments also to sit on the bench and to be ready for the next game, because it's such an ultra marathon this season that we need this rotation and smart rotation in the squad, and that's what we're going to do the next weeks and the next months. So I'm sure maybe you're going to be the first one, if we don't win the game, to say, why is that one not playing? But that's easy after the game with insight. So that's the difficulty of the job. Meanwhile, Clement confirmed that Rangers are in big discussions over the January transfer window. He said, "We are going to have big discussions about what we're going to need in January, and of course what the budget will be, because everything stands or falls with the budget. And we felt that in the summer transfer window, also in that way, that we wanted more things that we could do." That was the reality. So we will see what the budget is now. And my job is to get the best out of the squad available, to get the best out of everybody in that way, but also to push to make it better. Evening Times Sport, December 5. Hatate loving life at Celtic. Report by Joe Donnelly. Celtic overcame Aberdeen to climb 7 points clear at the top of the Scottish Premiership table last night in what was a hard-fought but well-earned 3 points. Both sides fought against strong winds over the course of the 90 plus 4 minutes, and it took a moment of magic from the visitors' Rio Hatate to separate the sides come full-time. In doing so, Greg Taylor showed expert vision to loft a ball over the Aberdeen backline before the Japanese midfielder showed great finesse to fire the ball across Ross Doohan and into the net. Speaking to Celtic TV, Hatate expressed delight in scoring the decisive goal, but underlined the importance of playing well for the team in that process. The 27-year-old also hailed the travelling Celtic support, who belted out his name from the stands in the wake of the 78th minute strike. And he said, "I'm happy to score the goal. It was a difficult game because of the bad weather and the fact that it was an away game. Away games are always difficult for us, and the atmosphere is against us. It was important to win the game. We tried to play the ball on the ground. The opposing team went long and we had to win the second ball in the air. I score goals for the team, but it's important to win the game. The supporters always sing my song. When I score goals and when I don't score goals, they're always singing songs, so I'm happy to be playing here." Report by Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, December 5. Hart admits he didn't know who Postecoglou was. Report by Joe Donnelly. Joe Hart's enduring love of Celtic is no secret, and it is something he's expressed on many occasions since hanging up his gloves at the end of last season. In a new interview with Australia's Optus Sports, the former keeper has outlined his first meeting with former manager Ange Postecoglou. After falling out of favour at Tottenham Hotspur in 2021, Hart said he had considered retiring at that moment. However, he was offered a conversation with the Australian coach, who had just taken over at Parkhead. Said Hart, I was offered an opportunity to speak to Ange Postecoglou, who, respectfully, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he'd been up to in the world of football. But it was like, can we have a conversation? Feel each other out? And from the moment I spoke to him, I just loved everything about him. I loved his calmness, loved his understanding, what he wanted to do, what he believed in, the research he'd done on me, the conversations that we had. We spoke as two fathers, if anything, rather than anything to do with football. I said, look, I've got a young family. I really want my son to see me play, and I want to represent. I feel like a father figure in a dressing room. Hart said he considers Postecoglou to be the best manager he ever worked under over the course of his own illustrious career, and said he loved the Australians' approach to football on and off the pitch. And he added, I said to him, if you need that, if you need someone who's still got quality and still has desire, but also wants to help, I'm offering myself to you. If you don't, I totally respect that. I'm not the guy for you. He said that's something that he needed. He'd done all the research that he needed to do, and he'd seen enough of me as a goalkeeper that he didn't even need to do any research. He is very, very honest. He made it very clear he's not the kind of guy who wants to have a close relationship with his players, and I totally respect that, and he was very consistent with that. But I feel we had a unique bond in terms of we could both help each other out, and I'm forever grateful for that, and spent some special years playing some crazy football, having had that relationship. Report by Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, December 5. Rangers Fan Advisory Board lashes out at club. Report by Stuart Wilson. The Rangers Fan Advisory Board has hit out at the club for failing to share the minutes of a meeting with Rangers Chief Financial Officer James Taylor last month, just hours before the club's AGM. The Fan Advisory Board took to X, formerly Twitter, to express their grievances, stating the group had made repeated requests to have the minutes shared since the meeting took place on November 5. The group say the purpose of the meeting itself was to raise issues regarding the club's financials before today's AGM. The Rangers Advisory Board said, we are extremely disappointed that minutes of a meeting with Rangers CFO James Taylor on November 5 have still not been made available by the club, despite our repeated requests. The purpose of the meeting was to raise issues around the club's financial results and provide clarity and context to help inform fan analysis ahead of the AGM. The group added, delays in publishing minutes to our meetings are completely unacceptable, and we expect the club to move much more quickly in future to ensure appropriate fan insight. Report by Stuart Wilson. Evening Times Sport, December 6. Celtic coach and dangerous pair highlighted ahead of Zagreb. Report by Donnelly. Ahead of Celtic's visit in the Champions League next week, Croatian media have identified the key threats it believes that the visitors pose to Dinamo Zagreb. From the host perspective, Sportski believes the upcoming Matchday 6 encounter is the European game of the season, one that it considers a must-win for the HNL side. Celtic enter the match with 8 points on the board, in search of their first away win in the competition. Dynamo, on the other hand, sit on 7, and like Celtic have half an eye on the tournament's play-off round, with 3 league phase fixtures remaining. For the Croatian publication, Celtic's biggest threat on the road will not feature on the pitch itself. Sportske said, perhaps their biggest strength and name is sitting on the bench, and this is Brendan Rodgers, the Northern Irish coach who at one stage of his career also managed Liverpool. In terms of players, everything starts and ends with Dejan Maeda, a small, quick-footed 23-year-old Japanese player whose great friend is Josip Juranovic, his former teammate. Maeda is comfortable in the white and green dressing room because his compatriots, midfielder Ryo Hatate and forward Kyogo Furuhashi, with whom he cooperates brilliantly in the last third of the field, keep him company. Rodgers has worked in the English Premiership for a long time, so it is clear that he wants a touch of the strongest football league in the world in his team. His wish was granted through the pair consisting of Austin Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers. The crux of Celtic's story is that they live and die on the Japanese power of Maeda and Furuhashi, says the article. Celtic face Hibs at Celtic Park in Scottish Premiership action tomorrow, before turning their attention to Dynamo Zagreb on Tuesday. Report by Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, December 6. Former Rangers player blown away by passion in Indian League. Report by Mark Walker. Former Rangers striker Jason Cummings has hinted he could extend his stay in India after admitting he has been blown away with the football and the lifestyle there. The former Scotland international, who switched allegiance to play for Australia, signed for Mohun Bagan last year after a successful stint at Central Coast Mariners. And after netting the winning goal in their last game, the 29-year-old admits he's loving every minute of his time in Kolkata. He said, I really enjoy it here, both the football and the way of life. It is amazing to see the passion of the fans and their dedication. It drives me to perform better. The fans have been incredible, welcoming me with open arms and making me feel at home. Their chants, energy, and belief in us inspire me every time I step onto the pitch. At the end of the day, football is football anywhere in the world. 2 goals, 1 ball, and my job as a striker is the same wherever I play. I have really embraced the Indian culture. The flavours in Indian food are unique and amazing. My girlfriend and I enjoy exploring different food, and we love travelling across the region. My bond with football and the country of India continues to grow. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, December 6. Graham McGarry says, Powder Puff Motherwell threatened to ruin Christmas once again. It's not easy following Motherwell at this time of the year. While everyone else is getting excited about the festive season and anticipation builds ahead of the big day, Motherwell fans are instead bracing themselves for the dreaded annual bad run. And like selection boxes in Asda, it seems to be getting earlier every year. This season is already in full swing, it appears, with 3 dismal displays in succession, yielding 3 defeats against peer clubs. That may be stretching the term in the case of Hibs, of course, but I think it's fair when taken in the context of their season. I am struggling to remember a sequence of 3 Motherwell games I have enjoyed less than the 2-1 loss to Ross County, the 3-0 scudding from Hibs, and the collapse that brought about the 4-1 defeat to Dundee on Wednesday night. It has largely been horrific to watch, with long balls being shelled at an increasingly forlorn-looking Apostolos at one end, and embarrassingly powder-puff defending at the other. Funnily enough, the performance overall against Dundee was actually much better than the previous 2, with the addition of Tony Watt at least giving the Australians something and someone to work with. That may be an approach worth persevering with, but the selection of Jair Tavares as some sort of hybrid wing-back winger was a baffling one, and an experiment that Motherwell fans hopefully will not see again. What the fans can never see again from a Motherwell team, or is acceptable from any team at this level, is the sort of collapse that was prompted by Dundee's second goal. Yes, manager Stuart Kettlewell has a point in his post-match protestations about the second goal, with Kofi Balmer clearly taking a blow to his head. Whether that merited a penalty award is open to debate, but what is not a matter of conjecture is that referee John Beaton should have stopped the game. So there is sympathy from Kettlewell's position, but there can be no allowances made for the sort of defending that followed, and that has worryingly become a hallmark of Motherwell performances recently. There was insult added to Balmer's injury, as he gave away the ball for the third, and then the eventual shot deflected in off him, before he was out-muscled out wide by Simon Murray, all too easily for the fourth. Motherwell are simply too easy to play against. The Celtic game was a prime example of what happens when you allow good teams the space to play, but that has carried on to other games, and Kettlewell's side have been punished accordingly. If Motherwell are going to arrest the current run of form before they slip into a similar sort of winless hellscape that they did last year, then upping the intensity and letting the opposition know they are at least in a game would be a start. Getting experienced defenders like Paul McGinn and Stephen O'Donnell back in the mix after injury would be a positive too, and for Motherwell fans that will happen hopefully sooner rather than later, says Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, December 6. Rangers announce plans for a reconfigured and refreshed board. Report by Martin McMillan. John Gilligan believes Rangers are set for a brighter future under a reconfigured and refreshed board. The interim chairman revealed at Rangers' annual general meeting yesterday that the directors had reviewed governance of the club and decided a change in structure would be beneficial. The current board is largely made up of investors, but Rangers' hierarchy are intent on ensuring a strong role from independent, non-shareholder, non-executives, and more representation from our executive team. The board reconfiguration is expected to be completed by next year's AGM. Gilligan said in an address to shareholders at Glasgow's Clyde Auditorium, "The directors have recently reviewed the current governance of the company and concluded that the existing board structure should be reconfigured and refreshed. Currently, the board is made up entirely of investors who have consistently funded the club over the last 10 years. This structure served the club well in the initial phase of our recovery. Rangers is now in a much stronger financial position, and this, combined with the current refinancing exercise, means our business model is now sustainable. Our board structure should reflect this, with a strong role from independent, non-shareholder, non-executives, and more representation from our executive team. A new independent, non-executive chair will also be announced shortly, with the brief to reconfigure the board to include 2 further independent non-executive directors, 2 to 3 executive directors, including the CEO and CFO, and 2 to 3 investor directors. The Rangers plc board currently contains Gilligan, John Halstead, Alistair Johnston, Graham Park, George Taylor, Julian Wolhart, and recently appointed club secretary Graham Horseman. Gilligan intends to step away from his interim role to make way for a new chairman imminently, while Patrick Stewart will start as the club's new executive a week on Monday. Another change to the leadership at Ibrox occurred last month, with Rangers promoting Director of Football Recruitment Nils Koppen to the role of Technical Director. The 39-year-old Belgian is charged with overseeing the club's transfer strategy and overall responsibility for the men's academy, medical, football operations, performance and analysis departments. The Ibrox club made a net loss of £17.2 million in their latest trading year. The figures did show a record revenue of £88.3 million, but a player trading loss of £8 million contributed to the overall figures. Player trading for the current year will not be helped by confirmation from Chief Financial Officer James Taylor at the AGM that the club had received a combined amount of just £800,000 in transfer fees for Connor Goldson, Todd Cantwell, Sam Lammers, Scott Wright and Robbie McCrory this summer. The figure was first revealed in the club's accounts for last season on events that took place after the period in question. Rangers revealed they had signed 10 players for a combined total of £13.4 million and received £0.81 million following the departure of 5 players on permanent transfers and 4 on loan deals. Gilligan, however, outlined his confidence that the club's player trading will improve under Koppen's stewardship and added, "Nils has set our men's first team on a course to be significantly more sustainable in the years ahead." Report by Martin McMillan. Evening Times Sport, December 6. Scotland Six Nations ticket sale postponed. Report by David Irwin. Scottish Rugby have confirmed the scheduled public sale of Six Nations tickets today has been postponed after a bot attack. A statement released last night confirmed the tickets would not be up for sale as planned after Supporters Club pre-sales were targeted. A review into the sale is underway today, with Scottish Rugby working with Ticketmaster to identify any suspicious activity. A further update will be released next week, with a revised schedule to be set for Six Nations ticket. The pre-sale of under 20 match tickets and general sale will also be moved as a result. A statement read, "The scheduled public sale of Guinness Men's Six Nations tickets has been postponed, as we believe this week's Supporters Club pre-sales were targeted by a bot attack. Scottish Rugby is committed to ensuring Scotland match tickets are purchased by genuine fans, and we are working closely with Ticketmaster to review today's sale and identify any suspicious activity. We will provide a further update next week with a revised schedule of sale dates for these games." Report by David Evan. Evening Times Sport, December 6. Tyler Jolly gets all clear to box again, reports Graham McPherson. Out of the wreckage of a traumatic and trying year, a new dawn has emerged for Tyler Jolly just when he needed it most. Looking to progress from an undefeated 3-0 start to his professional career, the Commonwealth Games bronze medalist was instead stopped in his tracks by the results of a routine medical check that flagged something concerning around his brain. What followed was months of anxiety and stress for Jolly as he fretted over his immediate health and, longer term, what this might mean for a boxing journey full of potential, but which had yet to get fully going. More scans followed, Jolly soon discovering the love and support he enjoys from his extended network, including girlfriend Natalie and trainer Ricky Burns, as each dug deep to help pay for the costly medical treatment. It has, mercifully, all proved to be worthwhile. Detailed examinations uncovered that the unusual activity that appeared in the initial scan is a legacy from birth and not something likely to trouble Jolly going forward. That served as a huge dose of relief given all that he had been through. And he confirms, "It's been a really rough year. I went for my medical and something flagged up on a brain scan, and the doctors were not sure what it was at first. I ended up having to pay for a further 4 or 5 extra scans to try to get to the bottom of it. I had to go and see 2 different neurologists who determined that whatever it was that came up in the brain scan, it's been there since birth, so it's no longer an issue, thankfully. But for 3 or 4 months earlier in the year, there were no guarantees I was ever going to box again. That news was hard to take. It knocked me right back for a while. Your mind starts to wonder about whether I should just chuck boxing and go back to labouring again, which was a scary thought, as I didn't want to get into that mindset. It was hard to stay positive and focused all the time, being honest. But I've got a really good team behind me, and also really good pals and family. My girlfriend has been my rock, as it's been really tough at times, and I'm really grateful for all that support, including from my sponsors as well. I owe so much to so many people. I've been doing this at a high level since I was 11 or 12-year-old, and my mum has given up much in her own life to support me and take me all around the country. Ricky, my girlfriend, and various other folk all helped me pay for the scans out of the goodness of their hearts, and because they believe in me. I'm doing it all for them when I get back. It's a real team effort now. With a view to helping get his career back on track, the 25-year-old has now signed with Ian Wilson at St Andrew's Sporting Club, who will co-manage him alongside Jason Quigley, and he will make his return to the ring on the Gladiators 2 show in East Kilbride in February. Adds Jolly, it's a co-manager deal with my current manager Jason, who's been brilliant with me. But being with St Andrews is just going to help me get busy again. Ian has a lot of shows and a really good roster, so it gives me a lot of opportunity to get active. He's putting on another Gladiator show after the success of the first one, and I'm excited to be a part of that. Hopefully it will just be the start of things again, and I can push towards being on the bigger shows more often. But my goal for 2025 is just to be busy again, whether that's in front of a packed venue or just a dozen folk. I think it will be a bit more emotional than normal ahead of my first fight back, but I cannot wait for it. Throughout all the concerns over his health, Kilmarnock-based Jolly continued to train most days with Burns. The former 3-weight world champion is a quiet, unassuming character for the most part, but Jolly, originally from the village of Whithorn, is grateful for Burns' encouragement, always choosing the right words at the right time. And he adds, I've stayed in the gym all the way through this, just to keep my mind busy as much as anything. I wanted to keep some routine in my life, and working with Ricky helped with that. He said if this had to happen, it was better it was now, so that the next time I'm due my medical and something comes up on the brain scan, they can just say that it's been checked out. Better now than before a world title fight, when the stakes would be a lot higher. Ricky is a quiet man, but he kens what he says, and when to say it, and that means a lot. Report by Graham McPherson. Evening Times Sport, December 9. Susan Egglestaff says, Bradley Wiggins was once a sporting great. His demise is shocking. Of all the sports people I encountered during my life as an athlete, there were few with whom I was more starstruck than Bradley Wiggins. I remember walking past him in Team GB's corner of the Athletes' Village at the London 2012 Olympic Games, and such was his sporting success, he seemed almost like an alien species compared to the rest of us. Just a week before those Olympics in 2012, Wiggins had become the first Brit ever to win the Tour de France, and his victory in the time trial at London 2012 made him the first person ever to do the two Olympics double in the same year. At that point in his life, Wiggins' star could not have been higher. He was voted BBC Sports Personality of the Year by an overwhelming margin, was awarded a knighthood, and his engaging personality, coupled with his triumphs on the bike, meant he was almost universally loved. The Englishman was spearheading Team Sky and played a significant part in the boom in cycling across Britain, which saw tens of thousands of people, in particular men, don their lycra and head out onto the roads in an attempt to emulate Wiggins. In the 12 years since Wiggins' incredible summer in 2012, his life has descended into something of a tragedy. It is one of the saddest descents I have observed. Athletes falling from grace in the aftermath of their career peak is not anything novel. Depressingly often, a once great athlete, by one means or another, ends up having their life devastated. But Wigan's downward spiral has been as disheartening as any to witness. In the wake of the Englishman's Tour de France and Olympics double, he was quite rightly lauded as one of Britain's greatest ever sports people. Someone who had achieved so much, surely, had the world at their feet. Well, whether through his own fault or someone else's, Wigan spectacularly failed to take advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves in the wake of 2012. Sure, there were further successes to follow, notably another Olympic gold in Rio in 2016, which increased his tally to 5 Olympic gold medals. But from there, it was all downhill. It would be easy to speculate that Wigan's descent began when he retired, towards the end of 2016. Often, elite athletes are entirely clueless about how to fill the gaping hole left in their lives when sport is no longer a constant. But really, for Wiggins, his issues had begun long before his retirement from cycling. He's talked about how, as a child, he had a father who abandoned him, a stepfather who bullied him, and a coach who sexually abused him. Given those experiences in childhood, it is perhaps of little surprise that Wiggins became something of a messed-up adult. Indeed, he's described cycling as a welcome distraction to his myriad of personal issues. It's not only problems from childhood that have plagued Wiggins, though. Soon after winning his 5th Olympic gold medal in Rio in 2016, a hacking group called Fancy Bears leaked files which raised significant questions about Wiggins' use of therapeutic use exemptions, TUEs, which allow athletes with medical conditions to take banned substances legally. Doubt was raised about whether or not Wiggins was being administered these substances for actual pre-existing conditions. And more questions were raised about Wiggins during Team Sky's infamous Jiffy Bag scandal, which suggested Wiggins was potentially being delivered an unnamed banned substance. But it is his financial woes that have been the source of most of Wiggins' problems for nearly a decade. Several tussles with HMRC have left the 44-year-old with hefty tax bills, and finally, earlier this year, he was declared bankrupt, with reports claiming he has £2 million of debt. He has been described as borderline destitute, a man with no fixed address, who has been reduced to sleeping on friends' sofas. Wiggins has dismissed these suggestions, but they are not tabloid sensationalism. Rather, they were the comments made by the Englishman's own lawyer. Wiggins' issues made me think of Chris Hoy. The two were teammates for a decade at British Cycling, with both writing themselves into the history books with their achievements on a bike. Yet the contrast in other areas of their lives could not be more stark. Wiggins has endured years of hardship, financial woes, and psychological battles, whereas Hoy seemed to have taken almost perfectly to retirement. Yet, following his cancer diagnosis, it's Hoy who will likely not get the years he deserved to reap the rewards of the success he achieved as a bike rider. Wiggins, on the other hand, still has time to get his life back on track, if that remains a possibility. What's been so noticeable about Wiggins, though, is that every time he claims to have sorted things out, another disastrous event is just around the corner. So far, at least, every time Wiggins claims to be in a good place, it is only a matter of months before he encounters yet another obstacle. It is always sad to see a once successful person fail so far, but even more so when it's someone like Wiggins who, it seemed, had the world at his feet, given his achievements on a bike and the affection felt towards him by the British public. Wiggins revealed that Lance Armstrong, of all people, has offered to pay for him to go to therapy as he attempts to get back on the straight and narrow. Whether he takes advantage of Armstrong's offer or not, or whether he finds another way to sort his life out, only time will tell. One way or another, someone who is indisputably one of Britain's greatest ever sportsmen must find a way to halt the spiral soon, says Susan Egglestaff. Evening Times Sport, December 9. Lewis Ferguson on Serie A takeover. Report by Graham Ruthven. No player ever wants to hear the letters ACL, but Lewis Ferguson had more reason than most to rue the anterior cruciate ligament injury that sidelined him in April. My first thought was about missing the Euros, said the midfielder, recalling the moment he was told that he would play no part for Scotland at Euro 2024. The timing was difficult to take. Ferguson had played the entire 23-24 season with Euro 2024 in the back of his head. And what a season it had been. Bologna were flying high, and club captain Ferguson had been one of their best players. With Champions League qualification in sight and the Euros on the horizon, he was preparing for a career crescendo. Then injury struck. Bologna got over the line and qualified for the Champions League for the first time since 1964, when it was called the European Cup. Ferguson celebrated this achievement, knowing he would play an integral part. The experience of watching Scotland from the sidelines in Germany, however, was altogether different. I know they put everything into preparing for every game, but when I'm watching the games, in my head I'm thinking I could be out there helping the guys. Ferguson recounted Scotland's underwhelming Euros showing. It's hard when you're watching your team and they are in a difficult moment and you're not there to play your part. That was definitely difficult. Scotland certainly could have used the quality of a player named the best midfield in Serie A last season. Barring any setbacks, Steve Clarke will be able to call on Ferguson again in the new year, with the 25-year-old now back in first-team action for Bologna. Ferguson is expected to be an important part of the national team moving forward. Ferguson said, "I think the performances have been good since the Euros. I think there was always going to be a lot of change after the summer. There were some players that retired and some great young players coming through, so it is refreshing to see new faces coming into the squad. That's just natural for a national team. You're not going to keep the same team for 10 years. It is somewhat unfortunate for Ferguson that he plays in the strongest area of the Scotland squad. He surely would have had more than 12 caps to his name if it weren't for the likes of John McGinn, Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmour being ahead of him in the pecking order. The standard is high in Scotland's central midfield." Ferguson's return from injury, however, coincides with a growing desire for Scotland to be more attack-minded. Only Serbia scored fewer goals at Euro 2024 than Scotland, who also exited the tournament with the lowest expected goals of any participant. If Ben Doak and Ryan Gauld have evolved Scotland as an attacking outfit since the summer, Ferguson and his goal-scoring instincts from midfield could offer something too. A record of 6 goals and 3 assists in 31 league appearances was reflective of the role Thiago Motta asked Ferguson to play for Bologna. While goals have always been part of the former Aberdeen and Hamilton midfielders' game, Motta pushed Ferguson higher up the pitch and out of his comfort zone. He was expected to make runs into the box in a hybrid position, not as a number 8, but not as a 10 either. "I just felt that he believed in me from the start," said Ferguson, when asked about Motta's role in his development. "He played me for 90 minutes in almost every single game, and that showed the trust and belief he had in me. I learned a lot about football playing under him. Football's about learning all the time, and in those 2 years I felt I really grew up as a player." Tactically, Motta instilled a lot in Ferguson, and he admits you could see the detail he put into every game, detailing the tactical groundwork by the coach who played under Carlo Ancelotti and Jose Mourinho. According to Ferguson, Motta could even see things before they happened, regularly predicting how opponents would play. A tactical Nostradamus. Evening Times Sport, December 9. Forgotten Celtic ace sees transfer value soar. Report by Mark Walker. Celtic lone star Alexandro Bernabé has been named in the Brazilian FA's Team of the Season. The Argentinian fullback joined Brazilian Serie A side Internacional in March and helped the Porto Alegre club reach 5th place in the league. He has even been touted for a call-up to the World Cup holders squad after an outstanding season. And he has been rewarded for his fine performances after the Brazilian FA chose their Team of the Season and picked Bernabé at left back. He played 23 times for Internacional in their season, exactly the same number of games he played for Celtic, and scored 3 goals against Atlético Mineiro, Corinthians and Juventude. Reports in South America have indicated Celtic are looking for £8 million for his loan club to make the move permanent next month. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, December 9. Tennis Scotland hit back at Judy Murray. Report by Maureen Sugden. The governing body for tennis in Scotland has denied claims by Judy Murray that they have not capitalised on the success of her trailblazing sportsman son, Andy Murray. In an interview with the Herald, Judy Murray said bluntly, "I do not have any confidence in the leadership of Tennis Scotland." Her remarks came in the wake of the collapse of her £20 million project to build a tennis centre near the Murray family home in Dunblane earlier this year. She said she was angry that Tennis Scotland and other stakeholders in the project began to vanish as time went on. And she said, "I don't have any confidence in the leadership of Tennis Scotland, and that's a major reason for me not to get involved in anything else here." Even when it was the 10-year anniversary of Andy winning Wimbledon, they did not do anything, nor when he retired. But it's never been about celebrating his achievements. It was about using them to increase the profile of tennis in Scotland and the UK, and reach communities that had previously been excluded. But what are they actually doing? They've now got around 20 full-time staff, but when they had a golden opportunity, they dropped the ball spectacularly. The 37-year-old Andy retired after losing in the men's doubles at the quarter-final stage of the Paris Olympics in August, and is now a coach for his former rival Novak Djokovic. In a statement given to the Herald and Evening Times, a spokesperson for Tennis Scotland said, "By any measure, this is a period of unprecedented growth for our sport. More people are playing than ever before, with participation growth and club membership numbers at a record high, having increased by over 20,000 in the last 5 years to nearly 80,000. We are now the third largest sport in Scotland by club membership, with a small staff team compared to many other sports. To cope with that growth, we have worked hard to secure additional investment at a time when sports funding is under increasing pressure, allowing tennis to invest significantly in a number of facilities and projects to help build capacity with the support of our partners LTA, Sport Scotland, universities and local authorities. We have opened 2 new indoor centres in Edinburgh and Elgin this year, with a third new indoor facility starting construction in Dumfries and Galloway in January. In addition to this, there have been 160 public tennis courts renewed and refurbished at a cost of around £2.5 million throughout Scotland over the last year to allow easy access to tennis in local communities, working alongside local authorities and leisure trust operators. Since 2014, there has been more than £30 million invested in nearly 200 projects across Scotland, including floodlighting, all-weather surfaces, clubhouses, indoor courts, paddle and park courts. There have been 40 new paddle courts opened in Scotland over the last 2 years, most of which are indoor. We are also hosting more international competitions than ever, with 32 weeks of events throughout the year, including an ATP and ITF level, and have just announced the first ever broadcast deal with BBC Scotland for our domestic tour. The number of players competing regularly increased by 32% last year, with numbers expected to have grown again in 2024. Record investment has also just been made in Scottish performance tennis, with new 5-year funding agreements with the LTA, while at grassroots level, more than 2,000 Scottish school children are coming into tennis every year as a result of our roadshows. 2023 saw the highest number of Scots competing at Wimbledon, and Johnny O'Mara, who worked with Andy Murray for the last 18 months of his career, is now part of our performance coaching team, providing the highest level of advice and guidance to our players. There are also now more than 500 accredited coaches in Scotland, with around 300 applicants every year across the 4 levels of qualifications we deliver in partnership with the LTA. There is always more to do, and the team at Tennis Scotland will continue working tirelessly to grow our sport. Report by Maureen Sugden.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review, and to tell your friends about our service.